All right, let's get to the good stuff. We're gonna cover our various guillotine finishes. We're gonna start with the high elbow guillotine or the Marcellotine. Before I start demonstrating this on Rory's not the best at being choked, so I'm gonna try to give as many examples of the actual movements without his neck in the way. But the main thing with the high elbow guillotine is that when we're gripping, and this is gonna go for kind of any of the grips, is when we're gripping, we wanna try to avoid hinging our wrist too much. Like sometimes it's gonna be necessary. Certainly with like the pressing style finishes that we'll go over later, but when we're gripping the high elbow guillotine, we want to try to grip in this divot between the ulnar bone and the fingers so that I'm securing this direct lever. If I start gripping just on my hand, there's going to be a shear on my wrist. Now, it's not impossible to finish that way, certainly quite possible to finish that way. It's just, you're gonna hurt your wrist. It's just a matter of time. At some point, someone's gonna be strong enough, or you're gonna be strong enough, and you're actually gonna put enough shear on your wrist that you'll create a bit of a wrist injury. So we wanna make sure that we're including this bone here in our grip. So our trigger finger can go around here, our middle finger can go around here, and we're trying to cover the edge of our wrist. So not just grabbing here, but a little bit on there. When we make that grip, we're going to be pulling towards our chest and up, and we want our elbow to roll over. When we try to roll our elbow over, I'll give you a lateral profile of my body here. Some people are flexible. I'm relatively flexible in my shoulders, and they can just put their elbow over top, right? So let me grab you here. I won't actually do the choke part, but well, I can bring my elbow over Rory's shoulder without really rotating very much. But the more mechanically correct way to do this is to slightly adjust your hips so that you create this angle where bringing your elbow, as your body blades about 45 degrees relative to your opponent, you're gonna be able to bring this elbow over much easier to block the shoulder. The point of the high elbow guillotine is that, if you watch the video on primary and secondary submission theory, the primary is the mechanism of choking, the secondary is what's preventing somebody from escaping. The high elbow guillotine almost is its own secondary, in the sense that the main escape is gonna be someone trying to flip over to that weak side, and this blocks it. If somebody does go to the weak side with the high elbow guillotine, they're fucked. So we want to be able to guarantee that by turning our body, thereby bringing our elbow over the shoulder, rather than turning our shoulder and potentially missing the angle, or just not being flexible enough to do it. So let's get to that. Turn it from this side. Assuming that we got ourselves to a guillotine control, and again, we'll go over setups and entries later on, but assuming we got ourselves to the guillotine control and our forearm is able to get through here, we're going to be turning our body this way, but at the same time, I'll be pressing my elbow into my chest. That's actually going to help flare my elbow over top of the shoulder. So there's my motion. I've turned my body slightly, I've brought my elbow over top. Once I have this, I'm going to be dropping onto my side, and I'm trying to, this won't generally happen, but I would like to have my elbow get so far underneath my body that I'm actually bringing my rib cage on top of the side of your head as I cover your shoulder, and then my leg will go over the hip to block the roll. I get here, I turn my body, my leg comes out, and I'm falling onto my side. Let's give an angle this way. I'll do this as slowly and gently as I can. If I have both butterfly hooks in, it's important that I take my left butterfly hook out, or that I be ready to follow into the mount, which we'll go over that a little bit later. So I get to here. As I turn my body to my left, before I do that, I'm pulling to my chest, and there we go. Now, this heel is digging down, curling in, and I'm just letting gravity, I'm letting gravity do most of the work. We're not so much trying to pull up, right? Like if you look at all the classic old school guillotine finishes, you're grabbing and you're pulling up and you're arching back. I want to be pulling up, but I'm more just statically holding my arm against my chest, like pressing it like I'm trying to do a chest compression, and I'm trying to bring my elbow towards my hip to create this compression, and then I'm just letting me falling down take care of the choke pressure. So I'm bending my partner's head into the choke rather than pulling up so much. I'll give you one more angle over here. So I hook up the grip, I get to here. You notice I'm turning in with my shoulder, doing an oblique crunch as I fall. So I turn to my left to get the elbow over, and then I'm turning back to my right and just kind of sitting there to finish on the choke. Sorry. There's very little pulling done when this is done correctly. It's an ab crunch and curling in to bring your hips forward. If you find that you're having to really pull up, there are gaps in your choke, you haven't slipped the arm around enough. If I could get the cameraman to zoom in a little bit. When I slipped, right?
Where's that button?
Right here. So you're gonna zoom to the right. There you go.
I can always edit this one.
Yeah, please do. Okay, so we're going to slip our arm just to the point where our thumb is around the neck, and then as we fall, we are going to be bringing our biceps in on the artery. So if you're not able to get that motion is going to be critical to you not utilizing a ton of pulling and squeezing on the windpipe. There's always going to be some windpipe in a guillotine. There's kind of no way to avoid that. But as I'm falling, I'm bringing my arm in deeper and deeper to try to get a bit of my biceps on the one side of the artery as my forearm slips around to the other side of the artery. And in that case, I should just be able to crunch in and finish with my elbow up. And that's going to be our standard high elbow guillotine finish. We'll go over the mounted finish next.